Hello everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Douglas Johnson. I am a certified yoga teacher, ordained minister. And while I don't always mention this at the beginning of my videos, I will today because it's relevant. I am a certified E-RYT Yoga Advanced Yoga Nidra Facilitator. So that'll be relevant in today's talk, and I'll explain what that means. Before I do, though, I do want to thank everyone who helps support this teaching. People do that by liking, subscribing, and commenting on YouTube. They also do that by making either one-time financial contributions through Venmo or PayPal, or many of you support me on Patreon as patrons on a monthly basis. So it's really those individuals that make these talks possible. So I want to thank them. Okay, so what is Yoga Nidra? Well, many of you probably know Yoga Nidra means sleep meditation, and it is a form of meditation that's been used in yoga for a very long time in one form or another. It's evolved and it's changed like most things in yoga. It's not a good or bad thing, it's just the way things are. And the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because I've been very interested in manifestation lately, as some of you have heard me say in other videos. And we might think, well, isn't manifestation separate from spirituality? What does manifestation have to do with yoga? Well, the answer to that is that manifestation is a part of yoga in the form of what's called sankalpa. Now, sankalpa is often translated as intention or will, what we would like to will, what we'd like to create, manifest. And it's very much a yogic form of manifestation, of trying to change the outside by changing who and what we are, our beliefs inwardly. And the reason it's used with Yoga Nidra is Yoga Nidra puts us into a hypnagogic state, a state where we can essentially hypnotize ourselves. We can brainwash ourselves, if you will. Now, this might sound like a bad idea if we're thinking conventionally. And again, I want to reiterate, if you are following me, following this channel, trying to learn about spirituality, you have to understand that spirituality is not about conventional thinking. Okay, so if you're expecting me to reinforce, affirm, and tell you what you quote unquote already know to be true, then you're in the wrong place, because this isn't what spirituality is for, all right? So we are talking about something that denies what our senses see. This is, in a sense, what spirituality is really about. Faith, okay? About seeing the unseen, about understanding and working with the unseen powers that shape the seen world, okay? But the seen world is the cause. So what we're trying to do with spirituality is understand the effect, okay? So we are, or no, rather the outside world is the effect. We're trying to understand the cause. We're trying to go back to the root cause, which we could call divinity, we could call God, we could call source. There's many names that we could call the cause of what we see. But when we try and explain things by what we see, we are really looking at symptoms, okay? This is very common in modern thinking. So modern medicine tends to diagnose and treat symptoms from a holistic and Eastern perspective. So the ancient perspective is that something like a rash is a symptom. The cause is psychological, energetic, emotional, mental. It's that the outside manifestation is like a mirror. So if I have a rash, that is a mirror reflecting back to me a belief or a unresolved emotion or unresolved trauma or some other sort of imbalance that is not being addressed. I don't need to worry about the rash. What I need to do is figure out what is the root cause, and then the rash will take care of itself. And so with manifestation, with spirituality, this is much the same. We are interested in the root, the cause of things, not the effect of things, okay? So sankalpa is our heartfelt wish, our spiritual desire, and it does not need to be spiritual in nature. Sankalpa can be anything that you really want to manifest, and you might find that as you work with it over time, your sankalpa evolves. It might become more quote-unquote spiritual. It might not, and that's fine. We can use sankalpa however we wish to use it. So sankalpa is used in Yoga Nidra when we are in a very suggestible state and we suggest to ourselves the state or being that we want to manifest. And sankalpa needs to be formulated in a very specific way. So it needs to be in the first person. So like I am or I have, not they will stop abusing me. That is a terrible sankalpa as an example. Rather, I am safe, or I am invincible. I am respected. I am loved. These are great sankalpas, great examples of sankalpas. Okay? So first person, very important. I am, I have. And then second is present tense. So again, I am is stating a fact about this moment. Not I will be, I will have, I will be healthy. Not a good sankalpa, okay? I will stop being sick, even worse, because now you're adding in sick, and we'll get to that in a moment. Okay, so I am, and then the last element is it needs to be positive language. And this is because the unconscious is attraction-based, if you will. It's a positive. It's not about, it doesn't deny anything. You could say it doesn't really see good or bad. It doesn't really see right or wrong. It will just basically recreate what it is impressed with, okay? So we want to impress it with the positive, unless you want negative things, of course. If you want illness, if you want sickness, if you want disease, if you want loneliness, then use these words in your sankalpa and you will for sure start to manifest more of that. But instead of I am going to stop being sick, which again is completely wrong on almost every level, we would like to affirm I am healthier than I've ever been. I have more energy than I've ever had. I am physically free. However you might phrase it. Now, another key with sankalpa is it needs to be short and sweet. All right? You want to keep it short and sweet. So you'll notice those phrases I've been using. I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am loved. I'm admired. Whatever it is that you feel that you are lacking, you can turn that into sankalpa. Now, another thing that I want to mention, these are all things that I've seen people do in the past incorrectly. So I used to have a girl who would take my class where we did Yoga Nidra regularly, and she would like try and use sankalpa to pass a test. I'm not saying you can't do that, but that's not really the proper use of sankalpa. Sankalpa is more of a long term. you don't really want to use sankalpa to manifest a parking spot, okay? If that's really important to you, go ahead. But then what you might do is affirm that you always have a parking spot waiting for you rather than I'm going to have a parking spot today, right? Same with tests. If passing tests and getting good grades is really super important to you, then instead of trying to pass the test this week, why not just affirm, I ace every test that I take. I effortlessly memorize everything that I study. Something like this. So what I'm saying here is you really want to start to think bigger, longer term. Now, another thing I'd like to address is you want to stay with the same sankalpa until it manifests. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes you will pick a sankalpa that at first just doesn't fit right, just doesn't feel right, for whatever reason. And that's perfectly fine. When you're just starting out, play around with different phrases, different ideas, different things, until you find something that really seems to resonate, okay? And that might take a while, that's perfectly fine. But once you do, and you'll know, you'll feel it. Once you feel like, oh yes, this is it, then what you'd like to do is stay with it until it actually manifests, okay, to your satisfaction. And then once it has, you can move on. The other exception to this rule, if you will, is that sometimes you just outgrow a sankalpa. So again, you might start with something like, I am wealthy. But then you might find that actually wealth was just a vehicle for you to feel abundant or happy. And you might find that while you were able to draw in the wealth, maybe there was a deficit of love or support or respect that you were desiring. And so you might find that something like, I have abundance, I am abundant, might capture more of the picture that you're actually trying to manifest. So sometimes you can expand the sankalpa to a broader range. And this is a good idea if you find that you're like, well, which one should I pick? Okay, so if you're like, well, I want love, and I want wealth, and I want all these different things. Okay, you want love, you want wealth, you want different things. Well, what is at the root of all of them? You might find, well, I just want to be happy. I want to be happy. Okay, well then, there you go. I am happy. I am happier than I've ever been in my life. That would be one way to capture all of those things. Now, I'll say that this is a very individual thing. So you need to play with the words and the meanings and see what they mean to you. I can't give you a sankalpa. I can't tell you what will resonate with you or what those words specifically mean to you. Sometimes they are very nuanced. Adding or subtracting a word can really make a difference. And in my experience, it's worth playing around with those little shifts or changes. And then again, once you've refined it and it really seems to hit the nail on the head, my advice is stay with the same sankalpa until it manifests to your satisfaction. And then once it has, you can move on to your next sankalpa. So again, sankalpa is used in Yoga Nidra. If you're not sure what Yoga Nidra is, you can check on the YouTube channel, on Patreon. I've posted plenty of Yoga Nidras over the years. Maybe I'll start to create some more. I also teach Yoga Nidra or facilitate Yoga Nidra every Sunday. We do one at the Soulful Sunday Satsang at Joyful Yoga. So if you're in the Atlanta area, that's in Sandy Springs, you can come and do it live. That, in my experience, is the best way. As useful as it can be to use a recording, really in person, there's just something about yoga and spirituality in person. It I'm not saying there's no value to doing a video or online, not saying that at all, but there is something very powerful about being in person, and that includes the Yoga Nidra practice. I also, this month, will be doing a Yin Yoga and Yoga Nidra at Oglethorpe Presbyterian Church. So that's going to be on October, I think it is 27th, if I'm not mistaken, but you can check my calendar for that. If I remember, I'll leave it in the description below. And that might actually be this week, I think. It's going to be maybe even tomorrow, which is Friday. This will probably go out on a Thursday. So, very powerful practice. Again, part of the yoga tradition, a part of the yoga tradition that I have dived very deep into. So I've studied, again, at an advanced level, Yoga Nidra and Yoga Nidra as a practice. And it's something I've shared from the very beginning of teaching yoga professionally, because it's a wonderful bridge practice from the more athletic and effortful types of practices that we do to something that is more meditative and more surrendered. And again, we're starting to work perhaps on a slightly more metaphysical level. And this is, again, where yoga starts to move away from just stretching the body, working the body, making the body healthy from a manipulating the physical to now manipulating beliefs, self-concept, and ideas. So Yoga Nidra and Sankalpa specifically is one way that manifestation, as we would call it today in spirituality and in modern America, I think most people have heard of manifestation, even if they don't believe that it's true. And I'm not trying to convince you that it is true, but we find it in yoga. It's part of the tradition. It's not something that I'm artificially introducing to you as an audience. Having said that, most of you that know me know that I don't limit my studies to one tradition or one part of the world or one teacher. So as I explore and go deeper into manifestation, I will not limit myself to Yoga Nidra and Sankalpa as the only possible ways that we can explore manifestation. Manifestation shows up in many places. It shows up in the Bible. It shows up in A Course in Miracles. And so we find it showing up in spirituality, where it's often ignored actually by people who follow certain traditions. They focus more on ethics, morals, behavior, and they often ignore the more metaphysical aspects of the teaching. And usually this is because somebody actually lacks experience with the metaphysical. And so they tend to just pretend that it's not there and ignore it, or they reinterpret it in some other way. I'll share with you my experience so far with exploring manifestation. It's very deep. And if you have maybe read a book or two on it, or watched a video or two, and you tried doing what they said and it didn't seem like anything happened, trust me, that's most people's experience when they start. So the first thing I'll share with you that I'm learning about manifestation is it's like anything else. If you really want to master it, you will need to spend time and energy on it. And it's going to be a different type of learning than learning, say, how to play the guitar or learning how to become an accountant. It's not to say it will be any less work or take any less time, but it's really going to require you to look at the self, to look at yourself, your self-concept, and what you believe you are. One nice thing about Yoga Nidra is potentially, it allows us to do this without all of that effort. So I have had personal experiences and experiences with others where using Yoga Nidra, it's almost like a shortcut that they are able to at least manifest certain things in their life without necessarily completely deconstructing the sense of self. Now, whether or not that's completely true or not, I don't know. I'm just sort of reporting my impressions that some people at least can use Yoga Nidra, and I think because we're bypassing the conscious mind, we're able to drop seeds into the unconscious that grow and manifest without the conscious mind ever coming into agreement. A lot of the manifestation teaching that I've come across requires a very deep and unrelenting willingness to look at our self-concept. And I'll create another video about that. But this can be very difficult because we are actually needing to see our thoughts throughout the day and to begin to counter the story that we tell ourselves, about others, about life, all of these things. Now, these are not new concepts to you, at least they shouldn't be if you've been following me for a while. But what I'm learning is that these concepts go beyond just how we feel inside, according to people who teach manifestation. I've always known our self-concept and our thoughts and our beliefs affect how we feel. And I've always believed that how we feel about ourselves then affects how we behave and what we say, and that affects how others treat us. Well, at least some people in the manifestation community go a step beyond that. And they would say that actually your beliefs make your reality. Now again, I'm not telling you to believe that. I'm reporting on what this branch of the spiritual community believe and say is true. And what I'm doing is exploring whether there's truth to what's being claimed there. Okay? So they're saying that actually you, through your beliefs and thoughts and assumptions, are actually controlling what manifests in your life. The reason I am interested in exploring this came from doing work with Scott Killaby and inquiry, which some of you have done with me before. And what I found when diving into people's unconscious is that it really seemed that they could not experience something that went against a core belief. Often a deficiency story, a story about themselves, about what they could and couldn't do, what they could and couldn't experience. Even if something was showing up in their life, they could not experience it. So even if someone was loving in their life, if they believed they were unlovable, it didn't matter. They could not receive that love. It began the wheels turning in my head, and I began to wonder to myself, what if every area in my life where there's a deficiency is actually a reflection of a deep unconscious belief? And that started the wheels turning about manifestation. And okay, if I am seeing lack somewhere in my life, I want to turn around and begin to inquire, what do I believe that is resulting in this lack? And this is a very important concept in manifestation. What people who believe in manifestation say is it's not a choice. This is what we might believe, that, oh, well, I'm choosing to manifest and then I can stop and then just live my life. What they're saying is no, that's not possible. What is happening is you are constantly manifesting. So what you like in your life, what you don't like in your life, is your manifestation, not conscious. Because a lot of people get this wrong and they think, well, why would I manifest something I don't like? That's because of what we call the unconscious, okay? And it's a very important thing to understand that the more powerful part of our mind is generally the part of our mind that we're not aware of. So this is why we teach meditation, yoga nidra, inquiry. These are tools for us to explore unconscious beliefs about ourselves, about the world, and to begin to rewrite those beliefs. All right, everyone. I hope today's talk was insightful and helpful. Again, as I explore manifestation and how it relates with everything else I've been teaching all these years, I will share it with you. But I wanted to share today's talk to lay a foundation there. So for any of you that might think that I'm somehow going off on some tangent in exploring manifestation, that it doesn't have anything to do with yoga, it's not part of the yoga tradition, it absolutely is part of yoga tradition. It's part of spirituality because, again, spirituality is really exploring that which is not seen, how it affects what we see. I did a talk a few weeks back about Gandhi and Martin Luther King and about how they used faith to actually restructure and change the societies in which they lived, and that they didn't really have evidence to believe what they believed. And this is the essence of faith. And faith is a huge part of manifestation. Okay, so faith is, again, another concept that we will probably talk more about in the future. But whether you're trying to live a quote-unquote spiritually fulfilled life, whether you are looking for ultimate truth, whether you are looking to manifest the life of your dreams, these concepts will be helpful to you. Okay, so again, faith and having faith that there is some unseen force or power. And there are many ways to conceive of this. Okay, so it doesn't need to be God, it doesn't need to be any one concept or idea. There's an unseen force and power that is shaping the world that we see. The world that we see is an effect, it's a symptom. What we want to do is, through these teachings, understand the root cause, okay? All right, everyone. Thanks again to everyone who supports the teaching. If you got something from this, please like, subscribe, comment, share. Those things really do help out. And if you have a question, reach out to me. I'm happy to converse with you. And if there's any way I can help you, I do sessions one-on-one, so you can reach out to me and we can arrange the details for that. Otherwise, I hope to see you soon. Until then, namaste and have a beautiful, beautiful day.